Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. We will be here with you for the next couple of hours discussing sports topics of local, regional, and national importance, and looking forward to doing so. Today is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Yesterday was pretty wild, not necessarily wacky, as we were down in Lewisburg for Kavaris Tears Day. And if you missed that show, please go back and check it out wherever you typically consume our show. We should be available on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, among other places. Where else should we be available, Producer Mark, before we get going?
I think you've named them all.
Did I hit them all? Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Full sweep.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, trust but verify. So, yeah. Go check it out. We had a great time down there. Marshall County Mayor Mike Kinney was a great host, and Bob Phillips with the Marshall County Community Theater really took care of us, and we had a good time, and it was a great event after the show as Tennessee outfielder Kavaris Tears, a Lewisburg native, was honored by his hometown for his part in the University of Tennessee's National Baseball Championship from a couple of weeks ago. So again, go back and check that out. Check out the tweets as well, because there's some entertaining video out there. I'm not just saying that because I shot it. Anyway, big show today. Again, Wild and Wacky Wednesday. We will be visiting in the second hour with our NASCAR analyst, Heather Williams, talking a little bit about Chicago, talking a little bit about Pocono, and talking a little bit about NASCAR getting in Bubba Wallace's pocket. So also in the next segment, we will be joined by Ben McKee of Go Vols 24/7. Tennessee not acting like a team that just won a national championship, or acting like a team that's trying to win another one in the transfer portal. So he will get us up to speed on everything that's been going on with the Vols since they left Omaha. So also a little Braves on a little bit of a roll, little Astros on a little bit of a roll, some Olympics news, and we'll be getting to that here pretty quick, actually, but also some NCAA news. So it's going to be a good show. And again, it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. In our final segment, Wade and I will be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. And trust me when I tell you, it's pretty weird, wild, and wacky out there in these streets. So I'm looking forward to that. Wade, how's your Wednesday?
Man, Wednesday is good. We are rolling here in Pulaski, getting ready for a big Wednesday show, getting ready for next big couple of days, and just rolling right along. And yeah, we will. We got a lot to get into today.
You really do, man.
We've mentioned it before. We've kind of been blessed. There's quite a few topics in an otherwise usually slow time of the year.
Yeah. I mean, this is the time of year that, as a sports talk person, host, producer, somebody trying to put this stuff together, you kind of dread it just because you're kind of looking for stuff. But we've not had to look very hard. That's the sound of me knocking on wood, because I don't want to jinx us here anytime soon. But yeah, got some good stuff. Looking forward to getting into it. Let's go ahead and get it started, Wade, with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
In the rundown today, we kick things off from scores from last night. The Astros did defeat the Marlins 4-3 in Major League Baseball action. It was the Braves 6 and the D-backs 2. The Sounds defeated the Iowa Cubs 3-1. And then also yesterday, we saw Minnesota defeating the LA Sparks 82-67. That was a WNBA score. WNBA scores from today. Are these final? Is that what I'm reading here?
Looks like.
I did get an alert. Huh? Yeah, I did get an alert that Vegas and Seattle, these might be older scores, but so I'll come back to those because I did get an alert that Vegas and Seattle is live today. But Regardless of when these were from last night, even though the note says today. I stand
they're
corrected.
from last night. Okay, cool.
Because I just saw a tweet a moment ago about Angel Reese. And so Chicago defeats Atlanta 78-69. The Liberty knock off the Sun 71-68. And it was Washington defeating Indiana 89-84.
Today's action, it's the Marlins and the Astros continuing their series at Minute Maid Park. That's a 7:10 first pitch. Get you a nap because the Braves and Diamondbacks continue tonight out in Phoenix. That's an 8:40 first pitch. You can see it on ESPN Plus and on the MLB network. Notice conspicuously absent there is Bally Sports South. Got to check on that and make my viewing plans for the evening. Sounds continue their series at First Horizon Park against the visiting Iowa Cubs. First pitch is at 6:35. Those WNBA scores were from today, Wade.
Yeah, just pulled up the scoreboard. Man, they got 3 games in now, and they got 1 underway as we speak.
Exactly. We've got 1 underway right now. The Aces are at Seattle. That one tipped at 2. Seattle's up 8-4, 3 minutes into the game, actually. And at the bottom of this hour, it'll be the Wings at Phoenix taking on the Mercury. So a lot of day action for the WNBA, and that gives you our rundown. Top story brought to you, as always, by Piggly Wiggly over in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options that are available until 6 o'clock. Also, their hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And as cautiously optimistic as Kawhi Leonard was about participating with Team USA in the Paris Olympics here in a couple of weeks, it has been announced, I actually kind of woke up to this, I guess, that the Clippers forward will not play in this year's Olympics due to, that same knee situation that kind of limited him late in the regular season and in the opening round of the NBA playoffs against the Mavs. So he's out. And, it's unfortunate, obviously, because he's probably one of the more versatile guys on that roster. But at the same time, he and the Clippers really need him to get ready for the upcoming season, I guess, particularly in the Western Conference. But replacing him is Derek White of the NBA champion Boston Celtics. Wade, again, you are much more of an NBA aficionado than I am. What are your thoughts about Leonard out, White in?
A couple things on that. And as much as Kawhi would like to be there, long term, probably making the right move. It's not as if he's just opting out entirely. He has kind of got a little bit of an injury situation. So probably for all parties, the best thing. And we know that
probably
USA,
the best for Team USA, right? Because,
yeah.
I mean, if you take him and then it flares up on him and he's not available, then you're short a guy.
Yeah. So you don't want to be shorthanded. They've already had some issues with Durant. He's kind of listed as day to day. He may not play in an exhibition game coming up, but so you're kind of already wondering about that situation right there. Is you don't want to bring a couple guys and then
not have them available,
being short for sure. So Derek White, a worthy replacement. The only thing I was worried. Hopefully he's gotten his grill fixed. The last time we saw him when he was hugging the Larry O'Brien trophy, he had chipped his tooth after he got stomped on in that clinching game. So maybe he's got the grill issues figured out. And he certainly played well enough in the second half of the season and in the postseason to justify a bid, which I think will be exciting and a nice touch for him. And he's a gamer, and he'll be excited to be there, no doubt.
No. I'm going to refer to something and I'll let y'all kind of connect some dots. But there is an article on CBS Sports headline. Cooper Flagg should have replaced Kawhi Leonard on Team USA after the Duke freshman shines versus NBA stars. Now, Cooper Flagg played as a member of the U.S. select team in some scrimmages against the team that is going to Paris, and by all accounts was pretty impressive for a college freshman. Or maybe not for a college freshman. Maybe he was just pretty impressive, period. But he's 17 years old. Wait, let me get your thoughts first of all. What's the word I'm looking for? How realistic would it be that Cooper Flagg would be considered for this spot that Kawhi Leonard vacated, in your opinion?
Well, normally you would think probably not, but this is the guy that everybody. This is the new. This is the American version of Wemby. Not to that level, but everybody is tanking. You know, our boy Chris Vernon in Memphis, he said teams are, quote, waving the white flag. He's referring to them, and we saw a couple teams on draft night already start kind of getting their tank going. So they're waving
even in the draft
for Cooper for sure. So with that being said, he's like the one guy. You know, he's not, you know, that Christian Laettner obviously is the example that everybody's going to think about. But it would have been cool to see him put on there. He's only going to spend one season at Duke. He'll go number 1 overall next year. He is not a once-in-a-lifetime prospect, but he is worthy. And the fact that he's even in the conversation shows you how good he is. And I think it's just a nice tip of the cap to Derek White for what he has done recently. But it would have been kind of cool to see a youngster get out there for sure.
How viable would he have been on this team, do you think?
Well, to me, that's kind of the cool thing is you really don't know. And he obviously would be thrilled just to be there. Mm-hmm. So you take out any sort of ego type situation. You know, he's not really chirping at Steve Kerr saying, I want my minutes. That's kind of the beauty, I guess. That's the beauty of bringing him, right? You don't have to worry about him potentially, you know, being much of an issue in terms of your locker room as far as your minutes goes. But as far as, you know, expectations, plug and play, White is going to probably be, you would think, the better option. Mm-hmm. Again, I still think it would be cool just because of the whole amateur aspect. The fact that he could be on the team. We've obviously seen this before, and it would have been neat. But, yeah, he will be on the team. Not this Olympics, it looks like, but he definitely will be in the mix in the next 4 years, I would imagine.
Yeah. The roster
and it would have been cool to see everybody kind of see him kind of in that national coming out stage because the word is getting out now for those that hadn't really been keeping up the last year with him. And he's going to be a one and done at Duke, and he'll be number 1. But it would have been cool to at least get a little taste, I suppose, of what's to come.
What the team looks like right now without Leonard: Bam Adebayo, Devin Booker, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, Drew Holiday, LBJ, Jason Tatum, and now his teammate, Derek White. So that's the makeup of the team as it sits with Leonard out, with White in. Wade, maybe I'm being oversensitive. Maybe I'm being combative. I don't know. You mentioned Wemby in terms of where Cooper Flagg sits. I saw this article and I thought Caitlin Clark 2.0. And as backing it up.
In what regard, I guess?
Just, you know, kind of a flavor of the month kind of thing. And to your point, you know, if Flagg were picked, there would be no pressure on him to play significant minutes. There would be a strong chance he barely saw the floor, but if Flagg were added to the roster, it would give basketball fans a glimpse into one of the most highly anticipated incoming college players in years. You know, one of the comments, one of the thoughts about Caitlin Clark not being on the women's Olympic team was growing the game and the exposure and that kind of thing. And it was a lot of the conversation was less about the competitive level of the team and more about the exposure and the marketing and that kind of thing. And, some of that just kind of feels like some of the factors that would weigh into naming a Cooper flag to this team.
I kind of get where you're going with this, but I really just don't know how much. It's definitely not to Caitlin Clark levels of consternation.
Sure.
I mean, she's captivated. Most of average America hadn't even heard of this kid yet, and so I just think it would have been neat. I certainly am not going to lose any sleep of the fact that he's not haven't been selected, and I don't necessarily know how many folks will. It would have been, if nothing else, like the article kind of says that you mentioned, it would have been cool to see what he can do. And if nothing else, he's already getting to show what he can do in these camps.
Absolutely.
And he's definitely going to get his chance to do it probably in the next cycle for sure. But yeah, kind of just a wild phenomenon with Clark that I definitely don't think he's on that level of uproar or consternation just yet.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's take a break from the Lee Company studios here of our respective homes on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back, we'll be talking with Ben McKee of GoVols247.com, talking mostly baseball, but we might kind of delve into some other stuff because, again, even though it's the summer, there's a lot going on campus. So stay tuned after this break.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another estate auction in White House, Tennessee on Saturday, July 20th at 10 a.m. Join Bluegrass as they sell the Judy Matthews Honeycutt Estate, conveniently located in the scenic Orchard Park subdivision. This beautiful estate includes both real estate and personal property, so everything must go. Everything will be sold on-site and in person, and a 10% buyer's premium is added to the final bid. So bid with confidence with Bluegrass Auction Associates, committed to excellence.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you. no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes, and we are joined now by Ben McKee of GoVols247.com. And Ben on Twitter is a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me type deal, because apparently there is more than one Ben McKee. And another one is a member of what? Imagine Dragons? Is that right, Ben?
That is correct. I often get tagged in tweets of Imagine Dragon fans trying to get a hold of the other Ben McKee. I think he plays the drums, if I'm not mistaken. The drums or the guitar. So I get Imagine Dragon tweets all the time.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, he got some Ben McKee 14 tweets the last time you were on. So we got even for you because I neglected to add the 14. But again,
I appreciate that.
We have well, he didn't.
I'm sure he did not. Although he might have. The funny thing about that is several years ago, he randomly followed me, and I looked to see who he was following, and it looked like he had gone on Twitter and just followed every single Ben McKee that exists. So he's a big fan of Ben McKee. So he may have enjoyed it.
Hey,
Ben McKee likes him. Ben McKee likes him some Ben McKee, huh?
Yeah. Hey, and I was going to say he might be in a big, successful rock band and, live in Vegas and whatnot, but let him deal with all Twitter one time and see how he really holds up on socials.
Hello.
Prayers. Thoughts and prayers. T's and P's.
Yeah. Ben, Tony hasn't rested since Omaha, has he?
No, which means I haven't rested much since either. Next time I talk to him, I need to tell him that he needs to stop being so successful on the recruiting trail because he's working me to the bone. They're now up to 5 transfer commitments. Tanner Franklin from Kennesaw State, Eric Radicek from Niagara, Gavin Kylan from Louisville, and then they got the Ole Miss duo last night in Andrew Fisher and Liam Doyle. They've added some JUCO arms that are really talented as well. And they're still in the mix for some more JUCO players and transfer players as well. So it's been one right after the next. And you're seeing why Tennessee was able to win a national championship because of its ability to recruit. And now that they have a national championship that they can sell on the recruiting trail, they're recruiting better than ever, which is hard to believe because they have the number 1 class in the country coming in right now. And baseball recruiting is really weird. These young men commit when they're in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade is when these recruiting classes are really being built. So when the class that is currently coming in, which is viewed as the number 1 class according to Perfect Game, this was years ago, like before in the midst of Tennessee really announcing itself in the college baseball world. So you're now starting to see with the portal what it's like that Tony Vitello and Josh Eland and Frank Anderson, now that they have resources to sell on the recruiting trail, it's just going to take it to a whole nother level, which is hard to believe because before the resources were in place, they were still recruiting as one of the best recruiting staffs in the country. And they're fishing in a different pond than they ever have before. And they can kind of sit back and be selective. And you're seeing the benefits to that right now with what they're doing in the transfer portal.
You mentioned Gavin Kylan, is that right? Is it how you pronounce it?
I believe so.
Okay. The infielder from Louisville who's coming in, he was regarded as the number 1 guy in the portal. I don't remember who the number 2 guy was, but he was also in the mix with the Vols, or the Vols were also in the mix for him, I guess. Does that continue to be the case, or are you familiar with whoever was number 2 behind Kylan?
I don't. You're referring to Baseball America's rankings. I do not know who they had at number 2 at that time. So I'm not sure who that player would be, if I'm being honest.
Okay, that's fine. But again, they're getting the number one guy out of the portal. They got a couple of guys from Ole Miss, as you mentioned. They got a guy out of their backyard in Franklin who is from Jefferson City and is coming home, I guess, to some degree. So again, they are just continuing to make hay. And in a situation where there was expected to be some drop off from this 24 national championship roster. Am I right?
Yes, it's hard not to think that there will be some drop off given that you just won a national championship. And this weekend, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, the draft going on, you're going to see several guys drafted fairly high and signed with organizations. Kavaris Tears, y'all's guy there in Midwest Tennessee, Columbia, Tennessee. He's going to get drafted in top 75, top 100 picks, and he's going to have a nice little signing bonus that he can play with. But I know his parents will keep him in check with that signing bonus. Your game also there for Murfreesboro, but Blake Burke, Christian Moore, Dylan Dreiling, Billy Amick. I mean, you go down the list. Tennessee's going to have several players drafted. I mentioned Beam on the pitching side, AJ Causey, Aaron Combs. They're going to sneak into the draft. I think Cal Stark's going to earn a professional opportunity. So there's a lot of roster turnover this offseason, and it's hard not to think that, okay, you just won the national championship. A lot of pieces to that championship team are moving on. Surely there's going to be a drop-off. But you look at the talent that's going to be on the roster next year, and, I mean, I'm not going to say that they're going to win the national championship, especially on July 10th when the roster isn't finalized and they haven't gone through fall practice. Anything less than a national championship is technically dropping off, but something that I am comfortable in saying is that they will have enough talent. We'll see how good they end up being. We'll see if they can manage to get back to Omaha. But I do feel comfortable saying on July 10th that they will absolutely have the talent, both on the mound and in the field, in the lineup, to compete for another national championship. And they will be one of the favorites to win a national championship once again next season. We'll just see if they are able to come together as a team. That was one of the big things that allowed Tennessee to win the national championship this year. Is like, sure, they have a ton of talent. I just spouted off all the guys that are about to be drafted. But to me, their best trait was how close they were as a team. It was a player-led team, the cohesiveness, the leadership. Those were the reasons that Tennessee was able to get over the hump and win the national championship. And because you are losing a lot, you have to rebuild your leadership. You have to rebuild that team chemistry. And that's why fall practice is going to be so critical. That's when this time a year ago, that's when the team that won the national championship really came together and solidified themselves as one, and that carried over into the season. So we know that they'll have the talent to go win a national championship next season, that there's not going to be a drop-off like you saw with Mississippi State or Ole Miss. I don't even think you really see a drop-off that you saw with LSU. LSU was able to make it to Hoover, get into the NCAA tournament. They lost in the Chapel Hill Regional. I mean, at minimum, this team should be getting back to a super regional and really flirting with getting back to Omaha just because of how much talent is going to be on the roster.
Ben, the way you laid it out, and we sat down with Kavaris in Lewisburg yesterday, celebrating with him, and I didn't ask him this question, but I'm curious, in your mind, Cal Stark is the name you mentioned that kind of brought it to mind, is who maybe in that run in Omaha made themselves the most money, if you catch my drift there? Who had the best performance that maybe they either shot way up or just shot onto a potential draft board in your mind?
Yeah, next time you need to get Kendrick on, KT's little brother, or get Papa on, get Papa Tears, Mr. Roderick on. Kavaris has a great quote, a great interview, a fine young man, one of my favorite players. He might have been actually my favorite player to cover on this year's team, just in terms of I love his game and I love him, the person, and I love his family. But Papa Tears, he's the entertaining one. KT gives you good answers, but Papa Tears and Kendrick, they're the entertaining ones of the bunch. So you may have to get them on next time.
Ben,
go ahead.
Ben, I will tell you that you're right. Rod is great to talk to. I love talking to Rod. I was scared to give Kendrick a mic because I was afraid we might lose our show.
Yes, that can both be a good thing and a bad thing, giving the microphone to Kendrick. It is July. There's a lot going on right now, so you're not scraping the bottom of the barrel to fill content. But in the quote unquote off season, giving the microphone to Kendrick may be a good thing in terms of you all can sit back and just let him go.
Let him go.
But you also don't know where it's going. So
well, I don't. You might get upstaged as well. So yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
that is true. But I think to answer your question, I think it might have been Kavaris, to be honest with you. Also Xander Seacrest would like a word with that conversation as well, and I can touch on him in a moment. But just Kavaris showing his all-around game. I think for a good portion of the season, Christian Moore, in terms of those top guys in Tennessee's lineup, there was 5 of them, I guess, with Billy, Burke, Dreiling, Tiers, and Moore. Those are kind of viewed as the top 5 guys coming out of Tennessee in the draft this year. And Christian Moore, obviously the number 1 prospect of that bunch. And then it's almost a hodgepodge, in my opinion. I do think Billy Amick was viewed as that number 2 guy behind Semo for quite some time during the season. But I think Blake Burke, Dylan Dreiling, and Kavaris caught up to Billy and are kind of viewed in very similar fashion. And I think, like, in terms of projecting to the next level, I mean, I think I might like Kavaris second most or third most out of that group if we're nitpicking, and like him behind Christian Moore just because of his overall game, his ability defensively. I mean, he is a phenomenal right fielder. I mean, good luck finding anybody with a stronger arm from the outfield in this draft class. And not only can he play right field, he can play center field, as we saw in Omaha. I don't know that he's an everyday center fielder at the next level, but
he can play center field.
Exactly. He's got that versatility. And I mean, this is really like playing in a pinch, but could play first base. I mean, that he toyed with first base when he got to Tennessee before he really settled in right field. So the athleticism, the defense, the hit tools. I mean, the power is we all know what KT's power is like. And if he can cut down on chasing and really stay within himself, he did a pretty good job of that this season. But if he can continue to really improve in that area as he jumps to the next level, because KT is not going to get a ton of fastballs in professional baseball. They're just going to throw him a bunch of junk. Him and Blake Burke, they're going to throw breaking balls after breaking balls, and both of those guys can kind of get away with being free swingers to a certain extent in college. They're going to have to really hone in on not being as free of a swinger, in my opinion, as they were in college at the next level, because they're not going to see a ton of fastballs. So just what Kavaris is at the plate, what he is in the field, and his makeup as well. He was one of the unsung heroes and leaders of this year's team that nobody really talked about, and they should have, because people gravitate to Kavaris, and he was one of the dudes in the locker room that people look to, and just the fierce competitor that he is. And he displayed everything that I just talked about in Omaha with the catch he had in center field, with a couple of the throws that he made from right field. The athleticism is always on display. He hit a couple of home runs. He hit for average as well. He drove in runs and in clutch moments. The makeup was on display. So I think Kavaris made himself a lot of money. But hard not to think that Xander Seacrest didn't earn himself a professional opportunity as well. And I think he's going to hear his name called. I think he is going to get drafted. We'll see where. I don't know that it's going to be a back end of the draft selection, which he might have been midway through the season before he really took off. I mean, I think he could be a guy that it's a 20-round draft. I mean, anywhere from as early as the 6th round would not surprise me. So with what Xander was able to do, I mean, he had been doing it for a while. His last 6 starts were just incredible. I mean, it started with that start against South Carolina, the final day of the regular season, won them the regular season championship. And then he pitched them into the SEC tournament title game in Hoover. Then he won them the Knoxville Regional, won them the Knoxville Super Regional against Evansville after they had lost to Evansville in Game 2. And then he pitched in Omaha twice. First time he sent them to the College World Series finals, and then he won them the national championship. So hard not to think that Xander Seacrest qualifies for that answer as well, in terms of somebody who helped their stock and earned themselves some money the most while in Omaha.
Ben McKee of Go Vols 24/7 joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Ben, we talked about guys coming into the program for the 2025 season. We've talked about some guys that are going to be leaving. One guy who probably could have left that isn't, Hunter Ensley announced that he's coming back. And just from a continuity standpoint, I would think that that's a pretty big deal.
Absolutely. I talked about the leadership that needs to be cultivated once again this fall if Tennessee is going to be successful next season. And one good way to make sure that leadership is still in place for next year's team is to have a guy like Hunter Ensley return for a 5th season. Obviously, he is a phenomenal baseball player. Talking about showing off your all-around game. I mean, Hunter Ensley, he showed off his all-around game with the catch that he had when he ran into the wall there in center field. Just no care in the world for his body or how he was going to have to pay for running into that wall, and his body paid for it. His hamstring was really, really messed up. He told me yesterday that he doesn't have to have surgery or anything along those lines, but he was really gutting through that hamstring injury. So defensively,
which makes that run that he scored even more impressive.
Yeah, I heard that. I did not confirm this with anybody, and I asked him about it. He wouldn't bite, but I heard that he tore his hamstring, and it wasn't like off the bone or anything. Again, you don't have to have surgery, and I'm sure there's various degrees of how you tear your hamstring, but it was not just a strain or anything is the point that I'm getting at. And I really don't know how he was able to run around the bases and score on that play. But it just goes to show his grit and determination and why his teammates love him, why Tony and the staff love him and wanted him back. So, and he was on a tear at the plate to end the season. Just a phenomenal baseball was played by Hunter Ensley over the last 2 months or so. And really, really played well in the NCAA tournament and in Omaha when it mattered most. So he's a heck of a baseball player, but the biggest development with Hunter Ensley coming back is the leadership that he is going to be able to provide, because it was a team that was player-led, but a lot of those players are leaving with all the guys that we talked about that are about to be drafted. And Hunter's kind of the one guy that's returning. I don't want to – he's not literally the only guy, but he's the biggest leader returning in that sense. And when you have several talented transfers coming in who will have egos and talented high school players coming in who will have egos, and you need guys like Reese Chapman and Dalton Bargo and Cannon Peebles to take a step forward this offseason, and you're trying to bring the team together and provide that leadership. Hunter Ensley is capable of bringing a team together in that sense. So as good as he is as a baseball player, I think the leadership makes it an even bigger deal that he is returning for a 5th season.
Ben, I was going to say, well, before we get you out of here, we're contractually obligated to ask at least one football question. What's the latest chatter? SEC Media Days will kick off next week. I'm sure there will be a bevy of storylines that come out of that. But what's the latest from your read on Josh Heupel's bunch there?
Yeah, it's really quiet right now, which is a good thing, because there have been many off seasons with Tennessee football under
and others.
Yeah, yes, and others for sure. But especially there with the football program for a decade or so, when they were really going through it under Dooley and Butch and Pruitt, where the offseason was not that quiet because there was drama going on. To me, it's a good thing when it's quiet in the offseason. When it's quiet in July, everybody's kind of getting that last vacation in. Players are back at home for the final time before fall camp begins. The end of the month. I believe it starts the 31st, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the 30th, they will have their local media day, and then fall camp starts the 31st or the 30th. But one of the last days of July, they'll get going. So everybody's kind of getting that last bit of rest in, and it's quiet right now, which is what it should be, because that means that things are going well, is the point that I'm getting to. But to me, what's going to stand out next week in Dallas, which is weird to think that SEC Media Days is going to be in Dallas. Josh Heupel is speaking on Tuesday. They're taking 3 seniors with them: Cooper Mays, Keenan Peely, and Amari Thomas. So I don't think that there's really going to be any huge storylines pertaining to Tennessee. The one that really does stand out aside from, Nico taking over as starting quarterback and some roster stuff, James Pierce Jr. being arguably the best edge rusher in college football. But I'm sure because it is in Dallas and there will be a ton of Texas and Oklahoma media, the traditional SEC media, I don't think there will be as much of, like for our company at GoVols 24/7, usually all four of us go. If it's in Hoover or it was in Nashville recently, I believe last year, it's been in Atlanta, all four of us went. But this year we're just sending one. So I think a lot of SEC teams who cover won't have a lot of representation like normal, but there will be a ton of Texas and a ton of Oklahoma media there. And Tennessee plays at Oklahoma, what is it, week 3, week 4, midway through September. And Josh Heupel makes his return to Oklahoma. And there was a little drama there with his falling out with the Stoops brothers as OC and whatnot. And Josh Heupel's already tired of the Oklahoma questions. I mean, he's gotten it for years now. And he was asked about it on the Big Orange Caravan. And he joked like, wow, I didn't know Oklahoma was on the schedule this year. So
I think they even asked him about it at last year's media days. I'm pretty sure.
Yes. So I'm sure people will try to get him to bite. And Josh Heupel, I mean, he's respectful, but he's not going to give you anything to write a headline around in that regard, Lane Kiffin style. So I think it'll be a very, very quiet media days for Tennessee. If that's your biggest storyline about going back to Oklahoma because your head coach was a national champion there, and he's not going to bite on that, not really say much about that because he's already fed up with that storyline, then I think it's going to be pretty quiet for Tennessee and Dallas.
Ben McKee of GoVols247.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today. A bevy of knowledge as always. We really appreciate you taking some time with us, and hopefully Tony V will ease back on the gas pedal and you can catch up on some rest. But we look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Absolutely. Got the draft this weekend. We'll make it through that, see what high school players make it to campus, and if the Niagara transfer, Eric Radicek, if he can survive the draft as well. So Tony's going to keep me busy through at least this weekend, and then I'll try to take some rest. But then it's time for football. So there's the rest this time of year. Appreciate y'all having me on as always.
Appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you. When we continue from the Lee Company Studios here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, we'll be talking a little Major League Baseball. Stay tuned after this break.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
July 10th, 2009, Braves outfielder Jeff Francoeur became former Braves outfielder Jeff Francoeur, traded to the Mets in exchange for Ryan Church. In 44 games with Atlanta, Church hit .260 with a pair of homers and 18 RBIs before completing his career the following year with Pittsburgh and Arizona. Francoeur, 25-year-old Atlanta native, played another 7 major league seasons with the Rangers, Royals, Giants, Padres, and Phillies, and spent part of his final season in 2016 with his hometown team as well as the Marlins. That was this day in Braves history, and that was part of the Frank Wren regime that most Braves fans would rather not mention again. So we're done. The Braves continue to surge, winning late last night 6-2 out at Arizona. So they're 4th straight.
Yeah, it seems like they're clicking a little bit. But you mentioned that going into Arizona, who has been, relatively average this season, but has the pieces from last year's World Series team. So a couple of nice wins. Seems like Atlanta's starting to click a little bit here, playing well at the moment.
Couple of nice wins coming off of, again, a couple of nice wins at home to close out that homestand against Philadelphia. So yeah, 4 straight, going for 5 tonight. Sale, not especially efficient or not vintage Chris Sale last night. Got through 5 1/3, but he did get the win. Improves to 12-3 on the season, on the heels of being named to his 8th All-Star team. Adam Duvall showing some signs of life with a 3-run jack last night as well. A little oppo field act. I'm sorry, he pulled that. Never mind. But yeah, getting a little power from some places that we had not been getting it here of late. So Duvall's 8th home run of the year, still not hitting 200, but starting to warm up a little bit. Speaking of Sale and All-Star games, as it sounds right now, don't look for Chris Sale to be your National League starter because he is scheduled to start Sunday against San Diego out there, which would certainly put him out of the conversation for starting that Tuesday night All-Star game in Arlington. Now, if they decide to bump some folks around in the rotation and that kind of thing and skip him, then he would be on sufficient rest to pitch in the All-Star game. But then I don't know what our rotation would look like coming out of the break. So right now it looks like he won't pitch in Texas. And again, this is his 8th All-Star game honor. So, I mean, I'm not even sure at this point how big a deal it is for him necessarily, but for the injuries that he's had of late and the way he's been able to get back to being Chris Sale, you'd kind of like for him to get that acknowledgement, in and on the field appearance. But much as we were talking about Kawhi Leonard earlier in the show, the most important thing is what he's going to do in the second half for this Braves team. And the All-Star game is very far down the list of priorities as far as that goes. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see, but at the end of the day, unless it's your first couple appearances, you probably not losing too much sleep if you don't get in there. So we'll see. And we'll see who that does potentially open the door for to make that start.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like to me there's a lot of conjecture there. If it's not him, I think he's kind of the obvious guy, Paul Skeens aside. So maybe this opens the door for Skeens. I don't know. We'll see. Braves with a couple of transactions prior to yesterday's game, as Bryce Elder, who came up from Gwinnett to make that Monday spot start as sale was pushed back, was optioned back to Gwinnett, and taking his spot on the active roster is A.J. Smith-Shawver, who was placed on the DL back in May with an oblique situation. He will come back and he will fall into the bullpen for this immediate time just to get these guys through to the break and give them an extra arm out there. But I would imagine at some point he figures into the rotation as well, given his work from last season, as well as a couple of starts this year. So keep an eye on that. We've not mentioned Eddie Rosario's return to the Braves. Started the last two games after he was picked up they signed him, I think, last week, and he was assigned to AAA Gwinnett, but they brought him up after the Phillies series, and he started both games out in Arizona. In fact, had that 2-out single in the ninth to key the comeback for Monday's victory. So welcome back, Eddie Rowe.
Back in action, right?
Yeah, and it's nice to get guys back that have been there and just kind of know the way things work with that team and that kind of thing. Duvall coming back, Rosario coming back. We're trying to put the 2021 team back together again. So we'll see how that goes here over the second half. You'd like to think Michael Harris is getting close to coming back, by the way. So maybe this outfield can settle in a little bit more after the break. Tonight, 8:40, Charlie Morton, 5-5 with a 3.96 ERA, gets the start for Atlanta. It's Slade Ciccone, 2-6 with a 6.10 ERA, going for the Diamondbacks. So again, 8:40 first pitch tonight. Man, they are testing my sleep pattern. Anyway, Breggy Bomb and a Blanco victory as Houston opened its series with a 4-3 win last night over Miami.
Yeah, 1-run win versus Miami doesn't get you too excited, but a win's a win. And getting the dub to kick things off there was pretty good. Bregman's been prone to come up with some clutch hits here in the last month and a half, it feels like. So it's good to see him. And we talked about Blanco, how well he's been pitching, and he guides him to another win, his 9th of the season. So big dub for them, which was the positive news. On the other hand, also yesterday they're learning that Lance McCullers is temporarily shut down. So any hope of him making a quicker return is not looking pretty good. So they're just going to continue to roll with what we got for now as we get closer toward the trade deadline. But a lot of chatter saying that if Houston wasn't buyers now, they definitely are buyers. Buyers before, they're definitely buyers now, because they're going to need to pick up at least one or maybe two pitchers, it sounds like.
They're going to need to pick up some pitchers, and they are, continuing to cement themselves into the race after that slow start. They were 2 games back of the Mariners in the AL West, and now still 2 games back. So definitely not time to punt if you're the Astros. They have a 7-10 start tonight. Framber Valdez getting the ball for Houston, 7-5 with a 3.84 earned run average. It's Brian Hoeing going for the Marlins. Lost his only decision, has a 1.99 ERA. So I don't know if he's been throwing a lot in relief or what the situation is there, but this could be a sneaky good matchup, a sneaky tough matchup for the Astros. So
yeah, hopefully just get on him, try and get the runs going early and get into the bullpen, and hopefully a little easier route than a one-run victory like last night.
Absolutely. Tyler Glasnow placed on the injured list for the Dodgers as he's dealing with some back tightness, or dealt with some back tightness over the weekend. It's expected to be a short trip, but it's his 5th trip over 7 years. So threw a career high in innings with Tampa Bay last year of 120. So he's on the IL as the injuries continue to stack up for the Dodgers. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, Tony Gonsolin, Dustin May, and Emmett Sheehan, all on the IL currently. Some will be back, some not this year. Also, obviously, offensively, Mookie Betts is out, Max Muncy's out, Jason Hayward's out, and the Dodgers have 5 relievers on the injured list. So bubblegum and chicken wire being employed pretty significantly out in LA right now. And yet they're 7.5 up on San Diego.
Yeah, good thing they got out to that fast start. I watched part of that game last night versus Phillies. They got hammered. Philadelphia just jumped all over them early. Biggio, who we just talked about, they just got not too long ago. He had the only run, hit a solo shot for them for their lone tally, because they're a little banged up right now. But you're right, it's great that they got off to such a fast start, because if this were any other division, they'd really kind of have to make some real noise to stay afloat. But right now they got a nice little lead.
Yeah. Apparently, the name Rhys Hines is one that should be remembered. Cincinnati Reds rookie outfielder did something no rookie has ever done before when he hit 5 extra base hits in his first 2 games. On Monday night, he doubled and hit a home run, a 421-foot home run in a Cincinnati win. Had a double, a triple, and a 458-foot homer last night for Cincinnati. So when you talk about announcing your presence with authority, that is apparently what Mr. Hines has done. Now, it was against the Rockies, so you got to take that for what it's worth. But still, 5 extra base hits in your first 2 games, it really kind of creates the what's he going to do next type thing. And already with the electric Ellie De La Cruz, I guess Rhys Hines said, hey, slide over, dude.
Yeah, Hines doing his best De La Cruz impersonation from last summer.
Exactly.
It sounds like. So talk about 2 exciting call-ups in the last 2 years. Cincinnati fans with a little something to cheer about, even though they're 4 games under 500.
4 games under 500, 3.5 back of a wild card spot. So still in the mix for postseason as we come up on the All-Star break are the Reds. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, Wade and I will get into the grab bag, see what we can come up with. So stay tuned after this break.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We are Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. It is hour number 2 of Wild and Wacky Wednesday as we come to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes. And this is the Grab Bag. Wade, do you remember a few weeks ago when we were talking about EA Sports rolling out College Football 2025 and who was not participating in it, who wasn't taking the $600 and a free game?
Oh yeah. Shades of Barry Bonds back in the old triple play baseball days, because there was one key player, a pretty pivotal player, depending on who you ask, that was not set to be featured in that game, as I recall correctly.
Well, I don't think this player will be as pivotal to EA College Football 25 as Barry Bonds would have been to triple play baseball, but apparently Texas backup quarterback Arch Manning has opted in. Now, you're a gamer. What do you think the chances are of someone buying or not buying EA College Football 25 based on whether Arch Manning is or is not in the game, as they like to say?
Man, unless your last name is Manning, I don't know that anybody is really probably. This is the thing that really had them on the fence, right? They weren't just sitting on pins and needles, and now they're ready to go. Kind of always, I kind of had a weird feeling about when this whole story came about. It's kind of just always something a little bit with the Manning family, right? And this was kind of just another way just to kind of randomly be in the headlines, even though Arch is obviously sitting behind yours. And so just the chance to kind of keep his name afloat a little bit. But I don't think that anybody outside of the family is going to be buying a copy now after this news today, except for Arch, I guess, which he, if he was really,
he won't be buying a copy either.
That's what I'm saying. If he was fiscally responsible, and was saying, no, I'm not going to spend my money. At least now he gets the free copy, right?
Yeah, there you go. Friend of the show, Anwar Richardson of orangebloods.com was the first, or was among those reporting, and it was back in March. I didn't realize it was that long ago, that Arch would not be opting in because he was focused on playing football on the field. So am I to take from this that he is no longer focused on playing football on the field?
I don't know.
What am I to take from this?
That's what I'm saying. It was kind of dumb, and just like I said, it was just felt like kind of a way just to randomly be in the headlines. And Eli is in the commercial or in the statement
commercial
where he announces he's in. I mean, it's just kind of always something with those guys, and big fans of what the family has done on the football field, but just kind of always randomly finding ways to be in the news. And how much is it taken away of your focus on football? You literally just sign the paper and get your check and get your copy of the game and move on, right?
When I saw this, the first thing that came to my mind was diva.
Very diva.
Maybe I'm being a little harsh, but yes, very diva-ish. Couldn't do it when everybody else was doing it. Gonna wait 2, 3, 4 months, and then, oh yeah, I think I will opt in. Now, here's the thing, and this might grate at some gamers, because it seems as if this might throw the release of the game off schedule to get him in.
I would be shocked if that happens. And yeah, there would be an uproar, and they would there'd be pitchforks at his doorstep, because everybody is ready. Tuesday is the early release, and Friday is the official release next week. So yeah, they would be coming for him. Now, the one thing I do see why maybe he didn't want his name in the game. The Manning family is so kind of protective of their image. Arch doesn't want videos leaking on the internet of people getting blasted 80-0 in the game, and Arch is the quarterback with 6 interceptions that they're playing against. That's the only reason I'm seeing maybe he doesn't want to get in. He doesn't want the screenshots of the gamers desecrating his name virtually, I suppose.
I guess there is that. I'll be interested to see, what, if anything, that does do to the timing of the release. You said the early release is
Tuesday.
Right in the middle of SEC media days, huh?
Yeah, early release Tuesday. You got to pay like an extra $30, I think, and you get it for a few extra days. And then Friday is the official release. Yeah, I think it's too late in the game for this make much of a difference. But yeah, just kind of always something with this guy, man. Come on.
Yeah. Will you be getting the early release, Wade?
There's a pretty good chance I'll be popping on Tuesday, because next weekend I'm going to be tied up, and so I don't want to get too far behind. The recruiting trail is tough, Mo, so you want to be out there ahead of everybody in your dynasty and stuff. So I might go ahead and pop it on Tuesday. That way I don't want to be behind when I get back the next week, and we're sitting there playing catch up. I mean, time is of the essence.
There you go. You don't have to worry about Josh Allen tackling Josh Allen anymore, because the Jacksonville Jaguars edge rusher will be Josh Hines Allen beginning this season. He has changed his name to honor the maternal side of his family and the other relatives who have worn Hines and Hines Allen on their jerseys. So number 41 will be topped by Hines Allen for the Jags this season. I don't know that this makes any difference for the Buffalo quarterback, that he won't be getting confused with the Jacksonville linebacker, but at any rate, there's this.
Well, who's devastated by this news is Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone, because the couple times that these guys have met, man, he has a field day on the Red Zone feed with this. And we're all we all suffer a little bit in this regard from the Josh Allen versus Josh Allen situation. But, at least now, depending on which one you're talking about, maybe you can rest a little easier. Maybe the QB is like, okay, maybe I feel a little better about this.
Little known fact, or at least I didn't know. Josh Hines Allen's sisters use the same last name, including Maisha Hines Allen of the Washington Mystics of the WNBA. Josh has an uncle who was drafted by the Golden State Warriors in '83 and is in the Hampton University Athletics Hall of Fame. And he has another uncle who played basketball at Montclair State on his mom's side. So quite the talented athletic family there. And Josh Hines Allen tapping into some of that. So, good for him. And that's a good thing. And I'm glad he's telling us in July and giving us a chance to get acclimated to it. So,
yeah. Except for those Jags fans that have bought the jerseys, obviously they're gonna have to get creative, or they're just gonna have to plop down some more money.
That's tough. That is tough.
Bust out the duct tape, baby, and put that on top.
Double decker, Hines and Allen. Yep. Yeah, it's all about the gear. Speaking of gear, new number for Dallas trade and sign Klay Thompson, who will wear number 31 for the Warriors. His number 11 is currently occupied by Kyrie Irving. So I guess he didn't think he was going to pony up for that. But Thompson will be wearing 31 in honor of former Indiana Pacers great Reggie Miller. And apparently this is a homage to Miller, who Thompson, kind of idolized as a youngster and tried to kind of model his game in Miller's image. I watched so much footage of Reggie coming off screens as a teenager, especially his ability to make game-winning shots. That is the most inspiring thing to see as a shooter, because he had no fear whether he made or missed the shot. He was going to live or die by it. Still have that image of him in the East Finals pushing off MJ, curling off the right wing and catching that three. That's how I modeled my game, just being able to space the floor, and you can't leave me open like you couldn't leave Reggie open. So, number 31, Klay Thompson.
Hey, whatever he's got to do, I'm also looking at this. He's got to do something to shake off the juju. My man went 0 of 10 from the field in his last game in the playoffs, in the play-in. So, I mean, yeah, you got to do something to get that out of your memory. And
that's a tough way to leave, isn't it?
If it's channeling, Reggie, all right. Hey, you got every option's on the table at that point, right?
0 for 10. Yikes.
0 for 6 from 3. Yeah, it was a rough outing the last time we saw Klay Thompson in a Warriors uniform.
Klay Thompson, the 6th all-time leader in NBA three-pointers with 2,481. Number 5 with 2,560, Reggie Miller.
Wow.
So there we go. We talked a little baseball portal action with Ben McKee earlier in the show. Belmont has picked up a transfer from Texas Christian. Tyler Lundblade, a 6'7" swingman out of Dallas, played 15 games in 2 years at TCU after originally signing with SMU. Averaged 28 points, 8 boards, and 3 assists as a high school junior. Then transferred to Greensboro Day School in North Carolina after playing in Texas his junior year. Was one of the top shooting guards in North Carolina. Averaged 10.5 points, 3 boards, and an assist. Shot 45% from 3-point range as a senior in North Carolina, and was a McDonald's All-American nominee. So Tyler Lundblade transferring into Belmont after spending the last 2 years at TCU and signing originally with Southern Methodist. And I guess I guess he'll have 2 years of eligibility then.
Sounds like it.
This release doesn't say, but that's what it sounds like. If he redshirted at SMU, played 2 years at TCU, then it would sound like he's got 2 years to play. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, they got a lot of holes to fill, so any depth they can get will be well received.
No doubt. Former Memphis Prep standout Jonathan Lawson, and I say former Memphis Prep standout because he won state championships at Memphis East, Memphis Wooddale, and at Houston out in Germantown as a freshman, sophomore, and junior before his senior postseason was lost to the pandemic in 2020. So he won 3 state championships at 3 Memphis schools. He is now heading to his 3rd college. Signed with Memphis out of Houston, transferred to Creighton, and is now headed to Little Rock, which means Jonathan Lawson is coming soon to an Ohio Valley Conference school near you.
3rd time's the charm, times 2, I guess, maybe, right?
Maybe so.
A little tic-tac-toe. Good move. I was unaware of his accolades at the high school level, so that is a wild stat, right? That's got to be a record, you would assume.
According to his bio on Creighton's website, that is a record. Became the first player in TSSAA history to win state championships at 3 different schools, it says here, which I'm a little impressed that the TSSAA has that information.
Yeah, that somebody did some real digging to find that out.
No doubt. Yeah. So played for Mike Miller at Houston. Played for Mike Miller's brother, Ryan Miller, last year. Ryan is an assistant at Creighton. And again, Jonathan Lawson headed to the Trojans of Little, and apparently, by the way, Wade, and you may have known this, it's no longer UALR. It's not Arkansas Little Rock. It's just Little Rock.
Just Little Rock.
Just Little Rock, much like Chattanooga and others of that ilk. So, and I assume that he will have 2 years of eligibility at Little Rock because he played as a freshman at Memphis and obviously played last year at Creighton. So
good, somewhat of a little coming home, a little closer to home at least.
A little closer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can get from Little Rock to Memphis. It's not hard. So let's take a break from the Lee Company studios here on Main Street Sports Today. When we return, we will be joined by our NASCAR analyst, Heather Williams, talking a little vroom vroom. Stay tuned after this break.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another estate auction in White House, Tennessee on Saturday, July 20th at 10 a.m. Join Bluegrass as they sell the Judy Matthews Honeycutt Estate, conveniently located in the scenic Orchard Park subdivision. This beautiful estate includes both real estate and personal property, so everything must go. Everything will be sold on-site and in person, and a 10% buyer's premium is added to the final bid. So bid with confidence with Bluegrass Auction Associates, committed to excellence.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Wild and Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. And again, want to remind you, if you didn't get a chance to see yesterday's show, and there's a good chance that you didn't, find it. So on our Twitter at MS_sports today. You can also find it on Facebook, on YouTube. But we were in Lewisburg for Kavaris Tears Day, and we had a great time. And we had a great show, and you need to go check it out. So, joining us now, talking a little NASCAR, is Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City. Heather, happy hump day.
Yes, happy Wednesday to you. Always fun to come in here on a Wednesday and talk about the strange things or the interesting things that happened in the NASCAR world over the week.
Strange things, such as?
Well, I think that there was a crew chief hiring yesterday that came a little bit out of left field for some people. That what we call silly season in NASCAR is well underway. We had a major crew chief hiring and a driver hiring this week, so that's always exciting. And then, of course, there's the Bubba news if you want to talk about that.
Are those hirings for the ongoing season, or are those for 25?
Those are for 25. And that's funny because I talked to Michael McDowell, who was kind of the first guy that got silly season started almost more than a month ago, by announcing that he's moving from Front Row Motorsports to Spire in the off season. And one of the things I talked about is that no other sport operates like this, right? You don't have the Tennessee Titans saying, just for instance, player X is quarterback, but he's going to stay through the end of the season, and then he's going to go be the quarterback of the Patriots. Like, that just doesn't happen. So it's really interesting. It's unique. Both of the hirings that happened this week, both the hiring of crew chief at Spire Motorsports in Rodney Childers and the hiring of Noah Gragson at Front Row Motorsports. Those are both guys that were at Stuart Haas Racing this year. That team is folding at the end of the season, so they were out of jobs. So both of those guys needed jobs, and they found jobs, and so exciting for them.
Yeah, finding jobs is a good thing. You mentioned young Mr. Wallace, and I guess we need to kind of touch on Chicago before we get into Bubba's pocket, as NASCAR did. But what did you see over the weekend other than rain?
Good racing. I mean, I thought it was an incredibly entertaining race. That street course to me has been everything I could have imagined and more. The racing's been great. The vibe from the people that are up there is just unreal. People of Chicago, after being a little bit tenuous about what was going to happen, have really embraced it. They had great concerts on Saturday and Sunday before the race. And I think, if they could just get a break with the weather, that easily, whether it's in Chicago or someone else, street racing could become one of the premier events each year in NASCAR. They're contracted to stay in Chicago through the end of next season. And then after that, NASCAR has discussed maybe moving it to different cities. It's a way to get to cities that don't have fixed tracks and expose the racing to those folks. So we'll see what happens.
Do you think Alex Bowman has sobered up yet?
I don't know. He may be sober, but he may wish he isn't at this point, based on what he was planning on doing. I mean, it's been a long time since he's won 80 races. He has the right to be excited and celebrate. He's young. He probably bounces back better than you and Mimo if we had tried to do whatever he tried to pull off on Sunday night for sure.
The last time we won, we didn't really get to celebrate. We're going to drink so much damn bourbon tonight. It's going to be a bad deal. I'm probably going to wake up naked on the bathroom floor again. That's just part of this deal sometimes.
Again, which is my favorite
yes.
part. It happened before.
Yeah. I'd be curious to know what Alex was drinking as a bourbon guy myself. But what is it you drink after you win for the first time in 81 races?
So I know that he told Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic, I think it was Jordan, in the post-race press conference that he had a special bottle that was sitting on his counter that he was saving for this win whenever it came. And he is kind of like temptation and like motivation to win. But I don't know that I caught what it was.
So it did a little extra aging, huh?
Yes, which is never bad.
That's true. That's true. Alex Bowman wins at Chicago, followed by Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, Joey Hand, Michael McDowell. That's your top five. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Todd Gilliland, William Byron coming in 8th, Kyle Busch 9th, and Ryan Blaney 10th. That's your top 10 at Chicago. And again, it was a little wet. But
it was, but NASCAR can now run in the wet, so it was all good. I mean, they had to stop it when it was a torrential downpour, the kind that you pull over from the side of the highway because you can't see anything 5 feet in front of you. They did have to stop for that, but once that passed through, we got back to racing, and we raced until it was dark. And it was a good test of NASCAR's new policy of if we're fighting the dark, they now give teams a time when they're going to cut off. And they gave it to them like 2 hours in advance. So they knew at 8:30 local time, or I think it was 7:30 local time, 8:30 Eastern. We're done because it's going to start getting dark. And at 7:30, they threw the white flag and then the checkered flag, and they were done. And everybody knew what they were racing to, more or less. They could build their strategy around it. So I think that worked out as well on their part to be able to do that.
Heather, you were kind of discussing the future of Chicago, and I'm kind of curious if the street race or Chicago doesn't kind of continue, is that something you explore like in another city? Are there opportunities for street racing? And if so, maybe who are the inside candidates in your mind?
I mean, I've heard people discuss maybe Denver, maybe somewhere up in the Pacific Northwest where there really isn't any racing. They go to Portland in the Xfinity Series, but that's it. So maybe like a Seattle, maybe something in another country. I know that NASCAR really wants to build more of an international presence. So, maybe something in Canada. Long ago, they raced a race in Japan once. I don't know that they were going to go back to Japan, but I think that would be cool if we did. But I would say, probably something like Denver or Seattle would probably be the front runners, or someplace that maybe IndyCar already goes. Like, I don't think the streets in Nashville are wide enough for cup cars, but maybe one of the other places that IndyCar goes.
And it seems like Chicago's kind of embracing that after, maybe some trepidation to start. But how much does the fan kind of clamor coming for that play into it, or is it all just dollars and cents? And if NASCAR can hammer out a deal, they do it. And if they can't, they don't.
I'd be surprised if NASCAR is actually making money at the track on the street race because of just all the money and infrastructure that has to go into putting up walls and closing off traffic. And they have to do this very quickly as to not interrupt, Chicago. You don't want downtown Chicago shut down for like a week and a half. They're basically setting this up and tearing it down in 24 to 72 hours. So, we're doing this very quickly, and all that is expensive. But I think the opportunity to just reach different fans than we normally reach and bringing the races to the other races, and the television deal makes plenty enough money that it's worth them to maybe be a little bit in the red in this event, but attract new fans who then might decide to, Chicago's not that far in a racing sense from a race at Detroit or St. Louis. So they might decide to go to one of those tracks, or they might decide to road trip to Daytona for the big event, right? And all those are dollars coming into NASCAR. So I think it's something that they're willing to do, whether it's Chicago or somewhere else.
Heather Williams of WCYB TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little NASCAR. And as Wade likes to say, we are contractually obligated to mention Daniel Suarez of Trackhouse Racing finishing 11th at Chicago. Ross Chastain at 22. But having mentioned the Chicago race and the results, Bubba Wallace comes out of it a little lighter in the pocket, $50,000 to be exact. Heather, what did Bubba do?
Well, so earlier in the race, he and eventual race winner Alex Bowman had a little incident where at that point, completely innocent Bubba Wallace got taken out, and it kind of messed up his day. He was able to race back up to 15th or 13th in the race, so it wasn't a total wash, but Bubba was very much a top 10 car all day. I mean, he qualified 7th for the race. He was having a very good day, which for Bubba on road courses is not usually a thing. So he was running well. He had a good car.
So did this add to his frustration then? The fact that I finally get a decent day on a street race and this.
Yes, and this happens. So after the race, he went up to Alex Bowman, which a lot of drivers do after the race, and doored him to express his frustration.
Door him.
Yeah, ran up and hit him on the door. But there were a couple of things that happened in that, because a similar incident happened further back in the field between Chase Elliott and the aforementioned Daniel Suarez, where Elliott doored Suarez. But a few things happened in the Bubba thing that is why he got punished for doing so. First of all, it was a very aggressive door. His wheels, Bowman's wheels came up off the track. It actually sent him into one of the walls. And also, Bowman already had his window net down. His hand was out the window, so there could have been some injury going on. So I just think that NASCAR decided that there is a line, like we get it, because people go up and door people to congratulate them. Hey, man, I'm so happy for you, and like bump them or whatever. But it was the force and the situation that he put Bowman in when he doored him that put Bubba in that situation.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna door him, you got to make him feel it, right?
Yeah, probably, but I guess because the window net was down, his hand was out. Keep it in mind as well.
Okay, and it's not my money, so right. and I have to say that before I say this. In the grand scheme of things, how big is 50 grand?
I mean, 50 grand is still 50 grand. I mean, if I lose $5 and $5 a lot of the money, no. Am I sad I lost it? Absolutely. I mean, money's money. It is going to charity because the NASCAR Foundation, who you write the check to, so it's not like it's NASCAR pockets. So maybe it was worth it to Bubba. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to ask him that question.
Okay, so it's not going to the NASCAR police or anything like that.
No. It goes to the NASCAR Foundation.
Okay, all right, cool. Pocono, thoughts?
Well, they call it the Tricky Triangle. It is literally a triangle-shaped racetrack with 3 sides that are completely different. One really long straightaway called the Long Pine Straightaway, 3 completely different turns. It is almost impossible to be happy the entire way around the racetrack because all the different sides of the triangle require different things to be good. So you're just trying to be, good in the parts of the track where you are good and good enough everywhere else. Because of the size of the track, there's a lot of room for strategy. You can pit without going a lap down, so you can short pit or you can run long. You can do some things if you don't have a great car to get track position that you wouldn't be able to do. It's a little bit more like a road course or a street race in that regard because you will not go a lap down if you pit. So sometimes people just work from the back. How many stops do I need? This is when I'm stopping, regardless of when the cautions come. So It's interesting. It's a much better race now that NASCAR's done two things. One, shorten it because it's a big track and it used to be way too long. And two, they only run there once a year. Because it's such a unique track, I think it's better to only go there once a year because it just makes you appreciate how wild it is by going there. Because it's just different. It's just different than any. I mean, you're racing on a triangle. I mean, who does that? So that makes it interesting.
So it doesn't get overexposed by only going
right, because it's not one of those tracks. It can at times, although in the next gen card has not been this, it can at times produce what you might consider boring racing. So by only going there once, if it's a dud, it doesn't sour your opinion of Pocono. I think people were getting a little burnout on Pocono because in the Gen 6 car, it was not the greatest racing. As I said, in the next gen iteration of the cars, it has not been that. It has been great racing. And so I think it's good, but I just think there are some tracks. I actually think there's only a handful of tracks we should go to twice to begin with because you oversaturate people. You know, if you had, I mean, red velvet cake is my favorite cake in the whole wide world, but if I had it every day, I would probably be sick of it. So it allows people in that area to still savor the taste of their red velvet cake because it's exciting the one time it comes there.
And it's a race, Heather, it feels like I grew up hearing about Pocono, and it just feels that they've been racing there since like the 70s, and I don't think they've missed. That's kind of been a staple because of its uniqueness, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. Drivers like going there because it is challenging. It is different than anything they do all year. And the crowds there for the one race have been good. A lot of these tracks that they have taken races away from and only go once to, the crowds have responded. The tracks have sold out. And sometimes, you know, the area or the track can't support two races, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. You know, let's do the one track that we have. Let's do the one race. Let's do it upright. Let's make it a sold out party and then, you know, go on to the next thing.
You know, that's interesting. The philosophy, the concept behind where you go once and where you go twice and that kind of thing. And that's interesting stuff. You know, Heather, we ask you who you like in some of these races, and a lot of times you're kind of hesitant to respond. We're getting to the point in the season, though, that maybe the better question is who needs a win this weekend?
Anyone that doesn't have one that thinks they want to be in the playoffs, because we're getting down to 6 races to go. There are 6 spots, I think, still not locked in by race wins. I think we have 10 winners this year. So if you're Ty Gibbs, Martin Truex Jr., those guys towards the top of the standings with only 6 races left, you're feeling pretty good. We're going to have a couple repeat winners. But if you are Chris Buescher, if you are Bubba Wallace, who's on the outside looking in, if you are...
One more reason to door somebody, right?
If you are Kyle Busch, if you are Todd Gilliland, some of those guys that are the next, 5 or 6 out, you definitely want to try to find a win to get into the playoffs just to secure it. Because I would say anyone past Bubba would have a hard time getting in on points. I think Bubba's right on the edge of being able to get in on points, but there's so many guys that are trying to get in on points. You don't want to rely on that. You want to go ahead and get a win, lock in your spot, and be ready to go for the playoffs.
That's it. Who do you like on this unique surface?
I like the Toyotas this week. They generally do pretty good. This is a great track for Denny Hamlin, who kind of needs a win. He's got 3 wins. He's fine. He's good in the playoffs, but he hasn't run well, particularly over the last month. He and William Byron both are kind of losing speed as Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott are kind of gaining speed a little bit in the way they're performing. And so I think this would be a perfect weekend for Denny Hamlin to get a win and kind of get some of the momentum back as we head towards the playoffs. And I like the Toyotas. They're always good on this track.
Wade, you look as though you got something.
No, I was going to say that's a good summary, and I've kind of just been enamored. I'm reading through the Wikipedia here. Just like I said, I grew up just always. Mom is the NASCAR fan in the family, and we just always kept hearing about this race. And I just remember growing up, and I'm like, why is this so unique? And I still really maybe don't fully grasp all of the ins and outs, but I know Heather's done a great job of kind of at least painting a pretty good picture, so I can at least pretend to impress Mom this weekend now.
Well, it's got a little bit of everything that tracks have, because it has a slow corner like a short track. It's got a long, fast straightaway like a super speedway, and then it's got a short, kind of a intermediate banked corner as well. So it's got a little bit of everything from all the tracks, which makes it unique, and that's why it makes it so difficult, because none of the corners are the same.
That's wild. Heather Williams of WCYB TV joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking a little NASCAR as we do most every Wednesday. Really appreciate your flexibility, because we had to move you off of Wednesday last week. But look forward to getting you back on next week. And thank you for your time, man.
Absolutely fun as always, guys.
All righty. When we come back here on Main Street Sports today, it's our final segment of the day. It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday, and I can tell you, we tell you that we're bringing you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. Just be sure you come back to the Lee Company Studios after this break, because we're going to live up to it. See you in a bit.
Bluegrass Auction Associates is hosting another estate auction in White House, Tennessee on Saturday, July 20th at 10 a.m. Join Bluegrass as they sell the Judy Matthews Honeycutt Estate, conveniently located in the scenic Orchard Park subdivision. This beautiful estate includes both real estate and personal property, so everything must go. Everything will be sold on-site and in person, and a 10% buyer's premium is added to the final bid. So bid with confidence with Bluegrass Auction Associates, committed to excellence.
It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. This is the final segment of the day, where we, again, bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest stories from across the globe. And Wade, do you have anything that you want to contribute off the top to Wild and Wacky Wednesday?
I'm sure we could come up with something, but I feel like we've already got a couple good contributions based on what we've kind of teased the listeners with here. So if something pops up, I'll jump in. But I say we give the folks what they've been waiting on, because we've hyped this up a pretty good bit today. And yeah, let's dive into it.
We've got some pretty wild and wacky stuff teed up. We will start probably with this is going to kind of trend upward, I think. This won't be the weirdest, wildest, or wackiest story, although a pocket watch worn by former President Theodore Roosevelt at the Battle of San Juan Hill in Cuba during the Spanish-American War, while he was wild game hunting in Africa and exploring the Amazon in South America, went missing in 1987. It has been returned to public display at his home at Sagamore Hill in New York. That's 37 years that the watch was AWOL, I guess.
It just turned back up?
The mystery of the watch's disappearance is not fully solved. It is still not clear who stole it and how. The Park Service and the Federal Bureau of Investigation only released details of its reappearance this week after an investigation. The agencies did not return messages seeking comment. The watch was given to Roosevelt, obviously prior to his presidency, by his brother-in-law and sister, Douglas Robinson Jr. and Corinne Roosevelt Robinson. Don't know where it came from. It showed up at an auction in Clearwater, Florida last year, where the owner of the auction was excited by the engraving, but was skeptical it was real, no supporting documents. And he was eventually able to, confirm the authenticity of the timepiece. But, again, a watch worn by a former president at the turn of the century, basically, returned to its rightful place after 37 years missing. It went missing again in 1987. Came back and was restored to the president's home, which is a National Historic Site. So,
see, that's the thing, right? It's a classic deal. If this was, this is obviously an awesome collector's piece, but if you, stole it or was acquired by ill-gotten methods,
right? What can you do with it?
You can't do anything with it.
Who can you tell?
Yeah, it's like Danny Ocean says, you're only as good as your fence, right? And I don't know how many fences there are for antique presidential pocket watches. So
yeah, I'm not sure how you sell that back to whoever you stole it from. Yeah,
no, but it's a good looking pocket watch. I mean, I wouldn't mind wearing that or having that on my person there, but and just mysteriously turns up. We've had a couple unusual presidential stories. Remember last week we had the George Washington with the cherries that we found underneath the house that were like 200 years old.
The well preserved cherries. Yes.
Yeah. So some presidential news is kind of dominating and under murky circumstances here. This is an unusual one,
to say the least. Murky's a good word for it, I think. Again, scaling upwards. Wade, are you familiar with a kinkajou?
Excuse me?
Good answer.
That's a Pokemon, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. A kinkajou, Kinkajou. It seems pretty straightforward, the pronunciation to me. It's described as a cross between looks like a cross between a monkey and a tiny bear. They are native to the rainforests of tropical rainforests of southern Mexico down into Brazil. But there was one located in Washington State recently, climbing on a tall wooden post along Interstate 82 southeast of Yakima. Washington State is a long way from a rainforest. I don't know how this little guy got here. But the zoo that is currently taking care of it says that despite their cuteness, kinkajous do not make good pets. So, I mean, I don't know if somebody found that out the hard way or what, but
yeah, they made a discovery they weren't prepared for just yet.
There was a kinkajou on the loose in central Washington State, long way from home. That's a lot of our wild and wacky stories typically revolve around animals, I guess because they are pretty wild and wacky. But it's kind of sad, really. I mean, obviously, this animal is not from the area where he was found. So
I'm gonna have to get to the bottom of this. Our good buddy, formerly in Clarksville, Luke Thompson, former Leaf Chronicle up there. He's based out of Yakima, Washington. So I'm gonna drop a text. We usually text about soccer, but I'm gonna say, hey, I'm going to switch it up in the odd realm here.
Yeah, what can you tell me about this kinkajou?
Yeah, what kind of intel you got on the kinkajou here?
There we go.
Because like you said, I thought this was a Pokemon when you first mentioned this here. You caught me off guard with that one.
In Arizona, which is rivaling Florida
Yeah.
You know, we've not had a Florida man in a minute.
Yeah.
I don't know if stuff is being normalized over there to the point that it's not making wild and wacky or what, but we've not had a Florida sighting on this segment in quite some time. And it's a little disappointing, to be honest, because I feel like we've kind of got a standard to uphold. But in Williams, Arizona, not to be confused with Winslow, Arizona, but it is along Route 66. There is a museum. Well, it's a museum called the Pooseum. Pooseum.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. The sign for this establishment features a bright green Tyrannosaurus Rex cartoon character sitting on a toilet. Inside this establishment are display cases filled with coprolites, 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 which is a name that I was not, a word that I was not familiar with until I came across this story. Coprolites are fossilized feces from animals that lived millions of years ago. And this museum has them from minuscule termite droppings to a massive specimen that weighs 20 pounds. And obviously, it helps you understand what these different beings were eating. Bone fragments in a piece of fossilized excrement at a new museum in northern Arizona are among the tinier bits of evidence that indicate T-Rex wasn't much of a chewer, but rather swallowed whole chunks of prey. They've got more than 7,000 fossilized pieces of poo on display at the Pooseum.
I mean, I got several questions on this, and I mean,
I think whatever questions you have, I think all boil down to one question: why?
Yes, I mean that sums it up best.
Why?
I love the attribution here. It says that the curator of the Pooseum, loved dinosaurs and fossils, but his fascination grew when he learned of the fossilized poop.
Fossilized poop. Bought his first chunk of fossilized feces from a shop in Moab, Utah when he was 18.
Hold on. Paid for this? Paid for poop. Do I have this correct?
So many responses. It was funny. It was gross, but I learned very quickly it could tell us so much about our prehistoric past and how important they are to the fossil record. Coprolites aren't tremendously common, but they can make up the majority of fossils found at some sites, and people have learned more and more about them over the past few decades, according to the executive director of the New Mexico Museum of Natural History and Science. It can be hard to identify them, and in some cases, specimens that appear to be coprolites with their pinched ends and striations were examined further and ultimately reclassified as something else.
You know, oh, come on now. Why?
I think that's what it all comes back to. I really do. Fossil enthusiast Brandy Reynolds recently visited the museum with her husband after finding it was a short detour from a road trip they had planned. I mostly find sharp teeth and things like that. I haven't really found a whole lot of coprolite, but who doesn't love coprolite? Well, I don't love coprolite.
No, I will pull over for some of these roadside attractions, and ironically, there's a cool one in Kentucky, Dinosaur World, but there was no coprolites. I don't think. I don't know that that's one I'm peeling off on the road trip, no matter what Brandy Reynolds says here.
Yeah,
Because,
I don't. I'm not. Yeah.
And then, I mean, so you think about that, right? You collect a few pieces of poop, and then, well, it's kind of like the Kinkajou with the Pokemon theme. I mean, then you got to collect them all almost. It's like now it's kind of turned into a
catch them all.
It's kind of turned into a full-blown addiction for this guy, and he's like the poop king of Arizona now.
If some is good, more is better, right?
Some is good, more is better. I mean, he's the poop master of Arizona.
Yeah.
It's fossilized poop, I should clarify.
Yeah, please clarify.
Yeah.
A highlight of Franson's collection is a specimen that holds a Guinness World Record for being the largest coprolite left by a carnivorous animal, measuring more than 2 feet long and over 6 inches wide. Franson said it's believed to be from a T-Rex, given where it was found on a private ranch in South Dakota in 2019. Franson also holds the record for the largest certified coprolite collection of 1,277 pieces, earned in 2015 when it was verified at the South Florida Museum in Bradenton, Florida. Franson's collection now stands at about 8,000 specimens. Doesn't have the room to display it all in the museum, thank goodness, and features some online.
So he's the record holder. But, you know, what is the second place person thinking? You know, now they got to step their game up, right?
Oh, goodness gracious!
I don't know how competitive the market is, but
I can't think it's very competitive.
I'm not. Producer Mark's going to have to clear his search history after this segment because I'm not daring to. I'm not getting on eBay or any sites like this. I'm not looking this stuff up.
Location, shape, size, and other materials like bones or plants can determine if something is a coprolite, but not necessarily which creature deposited it. I think the majority of us would say let's pump the brakes on that and just be happy if we can determine carnivore, herbivore, and then look at possibly those food cycles within each of those broad groups. You know, you can learn too much, I think. And I think we are certainly bordering on that. But, you know, the director of the New Mexico Museum says, and this is fair, if a child goes home inspired after finding a fossil or seeing one on display at a museum, then that's awesome.
I mean, hey, Brad Willis told us that he wants that for the goal of the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame yesterday. I don't know this is necessarily what you want to be known for, but I get what the overall sentiment is if you are the museum owner, for sure.
Sure. I mean, if you can spur some curiosity among kids and that kind of thing, whether it be the Sports Hall of Fame or the museum, and we know how kids are about poo. So, you know.
Now the T-Rex sitting on the toilet is pretty solid.
That's pretty provocative right there.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, I could maybe be talked into like a koozie or, you know, a sticker or something of that nature. Don't know. I'm going to spring for like a hoodie, but I could maybe go for a tiny bit of merch.
I could probably go for a sticker myself. We might have to reach out to pooseum.com and see what kind of merch they've got. And yeah, that's a solid idea, actually, Wade. Maybe we need a T-Rex sticker, T-Rex on a toilet sticker. That's good stuff. That
you
is
did
wild.
say we were scaling upward.
I want to go out on top, right? So that's Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today. That's going to wrap up Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Tomorrow, we've got to get Wait. Have you got to get?
I lost you. Yeah, tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. Bill Riddle, UT Southern head coach, just returned from Wimbledon, will join us. We'll talk a little strawberries and cream on the program tomorrow.
There we go. Oh, nice. Also, again, if you didn't see yesterday's show, go find it. You'll enjoy it. I am almost positive. That's going to do it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow at 2:00 right here.